The North Carolina pork industry plays an important role in supporting rural communities across our state. The pork industry contributes more than $10 billion a year to our state's economy and supports more than 44,000 jobs, primarily in small rural communities across eastern North Carolina. Learn more at ncpork.org. The North Carolina Pork Council, the foundational partner for the North Carolina Sports Network.
Wild Dogs and Hogs is back for another week of college football talk here on the North Carolina Sports Network. I'm Mike Waddell, along with Coach Jim Collins, and we're joined by a North Carolina playing and coaching legend here today, Ruffin McNeill, our featured guest here on Wild Dogs and Hogs. And Coach, it is an honor to have you on our airwaves talking college football here in the 2023 season. I mean, you have really had a magnificent career, and now you're Wolfpack riding high after the big win over Marshall last week.
Well, first, I want to say I'm honored to be here as well, Mike. Jim called, and we talked today, and we've known each other for years. So it's my honor to be with y'all, with you two, and to share and talk, and we'll laugh a little bit too. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, it's our honor. And let's go to the Wayback Machine. It's my favorite part of the show because we get to talk to people about how they started their careers. And you came up through Eastern North Carolina, Lumberton in the early 70s. Tell me what it was like playing football at that very interesting time in schools in North Carolina, and especially in that part of the state.
Well, you know, it was my mom, my family background is one of all educators. My mom and dad taught, my uncles, aunts taught, I taught. Everybody in the neighborhood I grew up in were teachers. And at that time, in my neighborhood particularly, we had a lot of really good athletes. My dad was a coach as well. So I was around a neighborhood that groomed, make sure you do the right thing, attend school, act the correct way, and play all four sports didn't matter. It was a trying time. You know, I was my mom, dad, myself, we were the first students to integrate in Lumberton, one of the first sets to integrate. And that was a little different, but how I grew up in our neighborhood was already blended and segregated. So it was no big deal for us. And we had a great time, had a great experience, and it was a great upbringing. I still fall back on those times, Mike, right now.
And we'll come back a little bit later, and we want to talk about your high school days at Lumberton. But after you were done playing for the Lumberton Pirates, you went to Greenville to play for the East Carolina Pirates. And one of my favorite coaches of all time, Pat Dye. I know you have to have some outstanding stories about those Southern Conference games back in the day, about two big wins, if I'm not mistaken, in that 76 season over North Carolina and NC State in Keenan and Carter Finley. I mean, the Pirates had it rocking.
We had a really good team. Coach Dye was, and Jim knows, and you know, Mike, it was at that time he had left Coach Bryant's staff at Alabama and came to East Carolina, and he was the first one to offer me a scholarship. He saw me run down a kid that was the top running back in the state at that time, and I wasn't being recruited. He came in the house, and when he walked in the house, it was automatic. He had my mom help her cook. Started praying with my mom in the back, and as Jim knows, and you know, Mike, it was all over then. I wasn't going anywhere else. And after that, a lot of schools came in, but it was over. But yeah, we really had a good team. A lot of guys from Eastern North Carolina at that time, Mike and Jim and Coach Dye. At that time, the rules now don't compare. It was 3-a-day, 4-a-day type work. We got pushed to the limit every single day, every single play, but it paid off for us. He brought the concept of speed on defense. We could really run, and we had a wishbone offense. So we had speed there too. So we caused a lot of problems. And we were fortunate to win a bunch of games. Had great coaches, too, as well.
Yeah, hey, Ruffin, the history of that coaching staff was absolutely unbelievable, and that leads me into this point. With all your coaching stops throughout your career, and we all have people that have influenced who we are in this business,
Yes.
from an assistant coach's standpoint, and then taking yourself to a head coaching role, which I've never been there, so I'm anxious to hear this. Who in your career has had the most influence on who Ruffin McNeill is as a football coach?
Great question. I go back to the beginning. My dad, my mom, they taught me values. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about right from the beginning of what's your philosophy? What do you believe in? And, being a good person was number one. Make sure you work hard, do the best you possibly can, and make sure you stay yourself. That was important. It seems like a simple thing, but never try to be someone else. You can't fix that person. So I learned that early. But when I coached as a player, my first college GA job was with Clemson and Danny Ford and that staff, who had played with Coach Bryant as well. So Coach Dye, who worked with Coach Bryant, Coach Ford, who had played for him, were my two first college experiences. After that, Bobby Wallace was my secondary coach, great ball coach, learned a lot from him.
Alabama background also.
Alabama background also, and one of the top coaches. I learned a lot of defensive secondary stuff from him as well. You keep going, and then I get to Appalachian State and get around Jerry Moore, who is one of the finest people I know, but one of the most intense, competitive, athletic people I know as well. He'll try to beat you in ping pong. I would say those guys, and I just tried to observe from afar and learn. I'm still learning now, Jim. I still learn right now, still in it. But those gave my base. All those guys combined when I gave. The next thing I did, Jim, each step of the way I practiced. When I was a GA, I practiced and carried myself like an assistant full time. May not have gotten one, but I did finally. When I was a full-time assistant, I carried myself like a coordinator. My room, I conducted, I met, all those things. Then when I became a coordinator, special teams at first, defensive as well, I carried my room like a head coach and never know if I got a chance or not, to be honest with you. And when I got the opportunity, I had practiced, sort of like in the backyard growing up. I had practiced the techniques, the delivery, and philosophy, and it worked out when I got my opportunity at East Carolina.
Well, you know what, Ruffin? I remember a day on a lake in Gainesville, Florida, with jet skis rolling around on the lake, where you and I sat on a dock and had a long, long discussion, my man.
Yes, I remember that.
It was very interesting. Let me ask you this now. What was it like as you moved through your career and then you became the head coach at your alma mater and you moved into that realm, being an Eastern North Carolina guy as it is, coming back to Greenville and being the head football coach there, of which you had a great deal of success. So tell us about that and share that experience with us.
Well, it was coming back. I was at Texas Tech, and I thought I had a shot at that job. Didn't happen. I accepted the job, Jim and Mike, with Coach Harbaugh at Stanford. And I was coming back on the plane, and Skip took the job at South Florida at that time. And they called, and I said, you know what? If you're serious, it was Coach Holland. Coach Holland rest his soul as well. Yep. I said, if you're serious, give me a call back. And they did. And we came over. And the first thing when I got the opportunity was, remember I mentioned earlier, be yourself. Don't try to be something you're not, Ruff. And I was in the interview process. I had a lot of stuff written down. I put it inside my jacket, take it to the meeting. And I didn't pull it out one time. I just answered from my experiences, sitting on a dock down in Gainesville, having a great time and all the experiences. And I got the job. I was so blessed to get the job. And I felt a lot of pride because I was in Eastern North Carolina, where I was born and raised, at my alma mater, where I graduated, my brother graduated, my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, my wife got a master's, and, all of our family went there. So a lot of pride and I didn't ever want to leave that job. But in coaching, that's how it goes sometimes. But it was a great opportunity. I enjoyed the challenge. We had some success, a lot of success, and I got around some tremendous young men who I had a chance to hopefully mentor and influence.
You also won a lot of games at East Carolina amidst some very different times in Pirate football, especially on the conference side. You go 8 wins, 10 wins, 8 wins in your second year in the American, which I don't know, was only a light year or so more difficult than the old Conference USA.
Yeah.
But you have one tough season and then it goes away. But the one big challenge that I think that you faced, and this comes from a former AD, is that you were hired by a guy that I worked for as well, and Terry Holland. I worked for him at Virginia. And this was a guy who had been a coach and an AD. He understood what you went through.
Yes.
You were not so fortunate in the next person, who I also know very well, who was the AD, but was not from that coaching ranks. Not to say that you have to be a coach to be an effective AD, but sometimes it gives you a little pause before making what would seem to be a knee-jerk reaction. And this is my editorial comment. In doing my prep for this interview and just being a fan of Ruffin McNeill from afar, I look at that as maybe the worst decision of any football program in the history of North Carolina college football, is letting you go and then bringing in the person afterwards that was an unmitigated disaster. I mean, an unmitigated disaster. Everything that you had built it up, I'm just going to say it so you don't have to. Everything you had built up was systemically taken down. And I know that had to just eat at you, but maybe that was some of the fuel that has kept you going to keep making a positive impact, maybe not as a head coach, but in other roles, because that's where your values from your mom and dad in Lumberton came through. It's about making a difference in any way, any role that you have the opportunity to fill.
I appreciate that, and I'm humbled. It was hard for my family. We it's one of those things that you wonder what would happen. And Mike, you and Jim know this, that we had already had it primed with the replacements for quarterback. The first, people don't know this, I never talked about it much, but we lost our first team quarterback, Kirk Benkirk, a week before the season. No contact, anything, ACL, out for the year. Same week, lost a backup quarterback that last year. Same next week, same thing. So now we're playing at Florida with the third team quarterback, and it was tough, we're swimming up, but I felt like, just let's change the mode. We were thinking this, let's keep working, and but I felt like if we had opportunity. We won 5 that last year. Eligible for a bowl game during that time. Was told we were not going. I accepted that. The other thing my mom and dad taught me, was, hey, take the high road. Even though it was hard, take the high road. And I learned from my mentor, Donnie Duncan, rest his soul, get home and get around the girls, early in the girls, and quick as you can. And let them know what's happening. So it was a tough deal, painful, but I agree with you, Mike. It drives me right now every day. They say, why do you get up so early in the morning and be to work? Because I want to see those kids. They might need me. One of them might need to talk to me or something. And I'm there for Dave, the rest of the coaches, just like Rope-a-Dope. I call him Rope-a-Dope. I call him Rope. I got nicknames for everybody. But Kurt comes by, ball coach. This morning it says, hey, Jim said call him. Boom. No problem with me. Looking forward to the talk. And it's still a challenge for me. This is when I made a decision. When I can't reach the kids, I know it's time for me to go. If I can't grab them and what I tell them doesn't mean so far, I love these kids where I am, and they've been fantastic. Dave's been great to work with and work for, and the staff, as you two know, which makes the whole
no doubt
deal work. You know, you got to. I get to go to work. I got to go to work. Well, I get to go to work. Just like you two working together. Y'all are a great pair. I couldn't wait to come on tonight to get to do this with you guys. So thank you for that, Mike. And it does drive me. You know, that's the competitive side. And at the same time, I want to make sure I give this profession that has been so good to all three of us and live it the right way, do it the right way.
The original Saltworks has been serving the Wilmington area for over 50 years. Owner Bob Hubbard and his staff create a welcome atmosphere to go along with their home-cooked breakfast and lunch that simply cannot be rivaled anywhere in North Carolina. Eggs, waffles, hot dogs, crab cakes, and the best grits in the state. The original Saltworks, a proud partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
Good job.
Sport Clips is like no other place you've ever gotten your haircut. Sports everywhere, TVs everywhere, playing sports, and guys, smart stylists who know how to give you the haircut you want and the haircut you need. You don't ever need an appointment. Walk-ins are welcome, and you'll walk out feeling like an MVP, guaranteed. Be sure to ask about the MVP experience, as it's something you just can't put into words. Awesome haircut, hot steam towel, invigorating shampoo, neck and shoulder treatment. It takes a haircut and turns it into an event. Sport Clips, a proud partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
We're talking with Ruffin McNeill. He's the special assistant to the head coach at North Carolina State. The Wolfpack in action this weekend at Duke Wallace Wade Stadium, 8 o'clock on the ACC Network, Saturday Night Football, Coach, and that'll be a lot of fun. You look great in red, I have to tell you that. Jimmy and I are wearing all black today, but you are in the red and looking like $1,000,000. But I want to go back just a little bit to what we talked about earlier in the interview. Let's talk about some of these people. I want to mention names to you, and if you can just give me the first thing that pops into your head. It could be a story, it could be a word, it could be anything, but it's our version of a lightning round. Okay, we're going to go back to Lumberton High School and Finley Reed.
Tough, disciplined.
Pat Dye.
Mighty, strong, demanding.
Jimmy Johnson, your summer internship boss one year.
Feisty. Very feisty. Smart. Loved how he handled the media. Learned a lot.
Jerry Moore.
Spirit. Competitive. Short swing in golf. Short backswing. Quickest backswing I ever seen in my life. But again, a person who learned from your past and shaped the rest. But I think a lot of Coach Moore.
Mike Leach, the new era Pirate.
You know what? I learned stick what you believe in. He was adamant about, hey, this is what I do. This is how I do it. This is what I'm going to do. And also goes a little bit back to he was always himself. What everyone saw from him, that's how he was. He was a laid back, but intense, competitive, but a laid back type, but really a strong-minded person who I learned, who gave me opportunity to first be a special teams coordinator at the D1 level, my second chance D1 level, and then I was a defense coordinator at Texas Tech. So God rest his soul too. He was a joy to be around. That could take all night talking about him.
Well, we'll have you on for a part two, because
I can tell you a story about the combine with Mike Leach that I probably should not tell on this show.
There's no doubt about that.
You don't think it involved cold beer, do you?
I know it involved a lot of cold beer.
No doubt.
And he wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere. And his stories became He was the one guy, Jim and Mike, that could talk about any subject in the world. I mean, we'd be on the road recruiting. I got to tell this one story. We'd be on the road recruiting. And Jim knows, and Mike, you know, you got to be able to, I'm coming to Jim Collins' house at 7 to meet with him, parents of the recruit. You got to be at 7 because we got some other ones at 8, 9, and 10. He may get a wrong number call. We're in Dallas somewhere recruiting, and he'll talk to the wrong number of the guy. Just find out who he is. I said, Coach, we got to go inside this house. He didn't mind. I said, Mike, we got to get this appointment. But he would just talk the whole time and carry a conversation and just out of nowhere. I'm going, you can't do that. And but anyway, like Jim said, there's a lot of stories that we could tell. And I learned a lot about, he taught us about staff unity too. We went down to the islands, Key West, for 10 years in a row. And everybody wondered why. It was for staff camaraderie. And I learned that as a head coach from Mike, is always take your staff together. If it's not for but 2 or 3 days, to form that bond. And then have another one with the wives, 2 or 3 days. And so that was great.
Lincoln Riley.
Young. Enjoyed seeing him grow from a lamb to a ram as a student, assistant to a GA at Texas Tech, becoming a full-time at Texas Tech when they let Mike go before the Alamo Bowl, and I was named interim coach. I told him, hey, take the offense over. He took it right away. Won the game against Michigan State. Great game. Thought we'd get the job, didn't. So we all split up. Like I told you earlier, I get these kind of jobs. First call I make, Lincoln, where are you? Well, he was going to Southern Miss to talk to Larry Fedora at that time and to David David at Rice. Interview, I said, hey, come on. And he got in the plane and came up. And, but great imagination, always willing to learn. Love him like a son and also a little brother.
Dave Doeren.
Tough. Love him. Known him since he's a GA at Southern Cal. Dave, my years now. Jim, back when I was at Fresno State with Pat Hill. And Dave was a GA at Southern Cal. Has a plan. Meticulous about plan. Tough. Has a culture builder. Very, very got a culture here. Transparent, willing. I think it's a strength. Is flexible and encourages ideas, and always looking to learn. So I really enjoyed him and working for him.
I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to going to the Duke-NC State game this weekend because I think the best 2 coaches in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I know people will say Dabo. I know people will say Mac. I think the best 2 head coaches in 2023 in the Atlantic Coast Conference are Mike Elko and Dave Doeren. I think they do a great job. And it's because not necessarily, it might not be the win-loss record this year, but it's the culture and it's the bond that they're building with these players. That was something that I took out of Charlotte in the ACC football kickoff is Elko and Doeren. I mean, they're an amazing group.
You know, I think, and you and Jim have watched a lot of football and been around a lot of coaches. I agree with you. Both tough, both defensive minded. Dave's a defensive coach, defensive head coach, runs the team in that fashion. I agree with you philosophy wise, fundamental emphasis, thoroughness. Mike's done a great job. It's just like Jim's and their team back in the day. When they were there, they don't make mistakes. They take the ball away from you on defense. They play extremely hard. Things we emphasize at North Carolina State under Coach Doeren too. So it's a hard-nosed. It's gonna be a hard-nosed game. We got to be prepared for 60 minutes or more of flat-out war.
Ruffin, do this for me. Tell me about your role on the staff there. Tell me what you do on a day-to-day basis.
My First thing is to assist Dave in any way possible, whether it's speaking engagement, there to assist him. He comes in the office a lot, shares ideas, asks questions, run things by. I'm on a lot of different developmental things. I think probably Mike will be the same way at Duke. We have a developmental program for our young people, our young freshmen. They all go through. We teach a class. We have a class they are required to go through when they come on campus, of campus, college life, football life, experiences, financial, social media, and it runs throughout the whole semester. Also a part of the leadership council with Coach Doeren and myself and D'Antonio. We help run that. I'm also involved in any mentoring programs, another freshman program during the season. At practice, I'm observing. I'm not good at much, but I'm really, really good at observing and watching ball. So I'm at practice. I'm watching both sides. I understand the game plans. Like today was my day. That's why I had to give you the time. Is I watched both sides of all three sides of the ball because I know Dave's going to ask me, and I'm watching it implement and doing practice and how anything I may see that way. It's also a part of that. I know it's a little long request, but I'm there to uplift if need be. And also the old school in me has not left. I know it's supposed to be new school. Nah, I am not that new school. I will bite them if necessary, but I love them from head to toe. So right. Those in order are what it's a daily basis.
I tell you what, Ruffin, that's interesting that you make the last statement because toughness still wins games. There's no doubt. It's execution. I don't care what kind of offense you run, what kind of defense you run. You got to be able to execute it, and you got to execute it with toughness. It still comes down to blocking and tackling somebody. That's the way our game is, and that leads me into my next point. We've already talked about Mike Elko and the influence he's had at Duke. Of course, I'm a former Dookie from a long time back, but at the same time, I respect what Mike has done at Duke. So as you move into this game against the Blue Devils, and you've made a quarterback change last week with Brennan Armstrong and replacing him, and you score 48 points this past week. So that's interesting. So elaborate on the quarterback change, and then as things have moved into the Duke game, and I know this is a long question, what effect as you prepare for Duke with the question whether Riley Leonard will be their quarterback or not. And I just heard a report where he is day-to-day right now. So if you can sort out that long question, please elaborate on that.
Oh, okay. The quarterback, man, Brandon's a great young man, great kid and great leader. And MJ is too. MJ played a lot last year, had to step in last year, got hurt, didn't finish the season. We had to play last season, went through 4 different quarterbacks the entire season. And MJ got hurt. So they battled in the spring. And Brennan took over the job, and we gave Brennan a chance to do that. We were struggling a little bit, and it's not Brennan's fault. It's everyone's fault. That's one thing that we do emphasize over here is team first, last, and always. So MJ took over. He had reps, but hadn't taken any game rep this year, so the plan was to redshirt him. So we had to go to him, make sure he was ready to go, and he was. The kids know him. He was a great leader, smart kid, was a smart. Again, he comes from an educator's home as well, down in Atlanta, Georgia area. Getting ready to play Duke, and we've already talked about Mike and the great job he's done. Riley's done a fantastic job.
He's a good player.
You find, there's a lot of football players out there. They may not get the limelight, which I don't care about limelight. I don't care about how many stars. But Riley was an excellent basketball player, which I love that.
Yes, he was.
And, I'm sorry he got injured, man. That was tough because pull for that. And what a great mom and family story has been going on with that. So you have to prepare for both quarterbacks and prepare for what might happen, because Riley's so mobile, but also experienced and also been in big games and won big games. We have to go back to, as you know, Jim and Mike, we got to go back to first, let's fix ourselves. Let's go back and make sure we worry about what can we control, and that's us. Making sure we are, like you mentioned, Jim, fundamentally sound. Make sure we understand simple packages so our kids can play fast. We're going to face a fast defense and a defense that creates turnovers. Work on ball protection. On defense, we got to make sure we do a great job, because they have a bunch of weapons. Great running back, great receiver group as well. Offensive line, very tough. This is going to be a game, if you like fronts, and I call it the trenches. Duke has an outstanding defensive line. Watching those guys today,
They do.
and so do we. We have a great group of guys too as well. So it's going to be a battle up front that way. But it's going to be a game where I keep mentioning taking care of the football by part, because they do a great job, limited, not many mistakes, not many penalties, and they do a great job taking the ball away. And Mike's got a system in place on all three sides of the ball. Special teams, not to be overlooked either.
Well, I tell you what, Ruffin, as I sit back, being an old defensive ball coach like I am, and coached a few linebackers that can play the game a little bit, you guys got a hell of a player over there in number 11, Peyton Wilson. Now, he knows how to hunt them down. He is truly a wild dog, and I can tell you that. So I love watching him play. Talk to me about his mentality and who he is and his leadership ability to your team.
He's one of those kids that's why you always stay the course with young players. As a freshman, and he's told the team this. We have sessions during the fall camp where our old guys tell our young guys stories. Peyton's told the team this. He had to come in and learn how to be a student, how to be a player, how to be a leader. And freshman, sophomore years, junior years, had some injuries, had to go through it, came through and battled that. Now he's one of the best leaders I have been around in 44 years. He is outstanding leaders. I mean, I'm talking about every day. And he told one of the guys asked him, one of the players, our coaches, asked, his son said, could you ask Peyton, what does he do? Why does he hustle the ball so much? And his answer was, I feel like inside, if I don't make the tackle, they may score. Wow. That was his answer. If I don't run to the ball full speed every time, they could score. So that's the kind of leader we got. And it's in practice. I mean, he does it in practice. He's just full speed, great young man, great leader, and can run. And he's all the intangibles. Yeah, he can run, but he's a great, great kid and a student of the game too. You'd love to have him at linebacker, Jim. Oh,
I would love to coach him now. I tried really hard to get to coach him, but he didn't want to. He didn't. You know what? His family were Duke fans originally, and then they were originally Duke fans. But I guess he didn't like the linebacker coach very much at that time.
No, I know better than that. I'm glad I got a chance to be around him.
Yeah,
let's talk about Peyton Wilson and something that he said last week when he came back in a post-game press conference after your win over Marshall, and he kind of took the Wolfpack Nation to task.
Last week, we had a tough loss to Louisville. He came in, and his first statement was the entire team, coaches and everybody, stay together, don't get divided. Yeah, I mean, and when he speaks, it's quiet. And that was last week. This week, he came back, and what you mentioned, Mike, and Jim, he stand up for his brother. And we preach brotherhood and family and teammates and team first and all that. Well, you better mean it. Well, with him, you better mean it. And he does, to him, it does mean something. When we say brotherhood, and you would love, Mike, you and Jim, love to be around him. I just call him 11. And then I get country say 11. I just say 11. I don't say 11 properly. I go 11. He knows what it is. He does this and keeps going to practice. But he said that to protect his brother. And he did it with passion, and he did it with, I thought, class. So he's a Wolfpack. He's graduated. He's a leader, and he's asked them, "Don't boo our team. Don't boo your players." That's not from a coach. And don't try to say you were booing a coach. Don't say that. That's not the correct thing. You couldn't fool him with that. Don't say you're booing play calling. No, don't boo your team. That's what Peyton said. So I was proud of him. In the leadership meeting, Jim, you asked what my job was. I felt just like Dave. I felt I had to bring that up and tell Peyton, thank you. I've been here 44 years. I've never seen a player do that ever.
That's class, and we knew coming out of Hillsborough, North Carolina, that he had that type of ability. And you guys have done a tremendous job of growing him and building him into the player that he's become, because he's one heck of a player.
Yeah, he is. Thank you. I'll let him know we talked about it.
Please do. Please tell him I said so.
I'll see him in the morning.
Coach Ruffin McNeill, we have one more question for you before we cut you loose tonight as you get ready for Duke on Saturday night. Of course, we're talking with Ruffin McNeill. He's the special assistant to North Carolina State Wolfpack head coach Dave Doeren and the Wolfpack football team coming off the win over Marshall, going into Durham and Wallace Wade Stadium for that 8 o'clock ACC network game against the Blue Devils. And Coach, one of the things that I've noticed since coming back to North Carolina, I moved back here in May of 2022 from Texas. I've lived in 11 states after leaving my home state back in early 2000. And the one thing that I noticed is that the recruiting profile of NC State, and I've talked to a lot of high school football players over the course of this season so far, your recruiting profile is not a mile wide. It's a very, very narrow focus, and you're looking for a specific mental makeup in the players that you have. Can you speak to that and really what the ethos of Wolfpack football here is? Because I'll repeat it. I don't think it's for everybody, but the people that buy in, it's kind of like being in the Marine Corps. You don't want to mess with the folks who truly buy into that red and white Wolfpack brotherhood.
I think that's a great observation. You know, it starts with Dave and what he brought. And it's a blue collar, and Jim knows, and you know, this is a blue collar school. It's a work school. It's a school that you got to bear down, and our ethos here is hard, tough, together, HTT, and that's what we live by. We work in off season. It's taught 12 months a year, every day. The first thing they learn when they come in those classes that we teach is the pillars and the philosophy and what it takes to be that. We're going to teach those. And when you're out and about looking at a young man, first, is he a good person? Is he ready to work? And does he work? Is he tough? And does he believe in teamwork? You know, and you have to do a lot of research, and that's, you know, what we're doing. And, you know, is it a perfect, can you get we shoot to be perfect, but we'd rather be slow and sure than fast and make a mistake. And but that's the profile. We want to get guys that can play and make plays in this league that we're in, and all three of us know it's expanding. It's expanding from west to east coast right now. You better have some guys that can run and have talent, but also those intangible makeups have to be important. And then within our staff, our offensive and defensive coordinators, and along with Dave, we go through an exhausting evaluation, film, background, talk to everyone possibly can, check. And we have a great group led by Andy Vaughn, our recruiting general manager, that does that. And you know, Dave is over it and oversees every person that comes in, of course. And you know, if Jim's linebackers, it's going to be who Jim wants. And Mike, you know, as AD, been a former AD, that's the most important thing. Let him coach in his room the guys he wants to coach in his room. Size, speed, playmaking ability, those type things.
That's got to give you the ultimate confidence as a member of the staff to know that he believes in your ability to judge talent and to you want to dance with the folks that you choose. You if you're a cook, you want to shop for your own groceries, and I love that. And I got to tell you, I didn't know what to expect when I met Dave the first time in Charlotte. He's a quiet guy.
Yeah, he is.
But it's kind of like the eye of a storm, man. You just know there's so much there. So I'm gonna beg of you at some point. I want to come walk around practice and just be on your hip. You don't have to talk to me. I just want to watch because something like that. And I see the same thing with Sean Clark at Appalachian State. Yep. There's a bond with the kids, and there's something that's a lot deeper than just a 5-star recruit who has the newest facility and who has this or that. Well, it ought to be a lot of fun over at Wallace Wade Stadium, where the Blue Devils have a great atmosphere going on. NC State has a great atmosphere going on at Carter Finley, but this one will be at Wallace Wade. Any final advice for the Wolfpack faithful to go over there and mix and mingle well with the Blue Devil faithful? Because I got to tell you, sometimes the Wolfpack fans can get a little bit rowdy, Ruff.
Well, you better be careful. I've had a chance to watch them against Clemson, watch them play Notre Dame. They travel. They're tough. They support their team. We know they're going to be out Saturday night at 8 o'clock support their team. Please come out and support us. And I think your leader has spoken to you as from within. Yeah. So follow his lead. That's Jim. You try to recruit him, you know what he is.
I do.
Follow that boy's lead, and it's going to be a great game. We got to have a great week of practice and preparation. We know we're facing a well-coached team, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a battle and competitive battle and competitive spirits.
Well, it's rough, as you know. I've been either worked with or know almost everybody on your coaching staff. So please tell them all that I wish them the best, and I admire what they're doing, and hope you close the season on a very strong note.
Thank you, Jim. I love you, brother. Love you, Mike.
Love you guys too.
Thank y'all for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.